Hello and welcome to Confidently Wrong, a show by regular dudes talking with confidence about content we have no right to speak about with any kind of authority, but do it anyway. I'm Wesley Nakamura, and as always, I'm joined by award-winning director Brian Redondo and Savon Jones, aka Captain Vonnie. This is episode 226, and we all enjoyed Spider-Man Brand New Day, but we found some parts of it to be lacking. So even though it's going to make more money than Avengers Doomsday, we still had to tell the truth about it. And the truth is, I'm confident that it's going to be the best show you've ever listened to, and well, hey, if it's not, you can always ask us for a refund.
Incredible!
Hello, gentlemen! Welcome back. It's Confidently Wrong. We're reaching the end of summer, except it's still hot in Texas.
Hot.
Woo! Hitting 100 degrees here almost every day. I do not love it.
Well, at least you can treat yourself to an ice cold beer.
But we are gonna get it. We're gonna get into the hotness of the summer. This is outdoing in terms of box office numbers, outdoing The Odyssey. Those two movies together put on one of the biggest weekends we've had in a long time. Apparently, like $420 million domestically, I think, in one weekend on Spider-Man's opening weekend. So people are going to see this movie. They are going multiple times to see this movie, and it
superhero fatigue in full effect.
Yeah, there is no superhero fatigue on this, or at least no Spider-Man fatigue. So
Not with that. It's the ultimate cash grab. Why would
Savon
is the only victim of
us.
Spider-Man fatigue.
Yeah, he always hates on us for like, why do you want to see this movie? And da-da-da. And I'm like, everybody wants to see Spider-Man movies.
It's just wild that we on this pod with a straight face talk about cash grab series and rehashing the same IP, and then also in the same breath be, oh my God, Spider-Man.
I'm not.
I don't see any hypocrisy in that at all.
Let's just get to the damn movie.
If it's a fun story and a good character, hey, not a problem seeing it multiple times. So interesting that like I actually tried to go into this one as much as possible, not seeing any trailers. I tried not to know anything about the story, so I didn't even know there was some of the like drama going on with Sadie Sink. I didn't know she was even in the movie. She's an actress. I know her from The Whale. I don't know. I'm sure she's been in other things that are big, but I saw her more recently in The Whale and thought she was really fantastic. And I mean, she was mean and cruel and like really like sold that part and you bought in for sure. So I was like, okay, she's got some acting chops for sure. Brian, what was your excitement level for this movie? I was pretty excited. That's why I was like, I'm going to see this. I don't need to know what's happening because I feel like they could take the story anywhere. I don't even want to know any drops of crumbs where they're going to go with this. Let me just go in like a little newborn baby and let it wash over me. Brian, how'd you come into this movie?
It's the first MCU movie of the year, correct? Like we haven't had an MCU movie since the New Avengers, the
Thunderbolts?
The Thunderbolts, was that the last one?
A long time ago.
That was a very long time ago.
Yeah, it was like a year ago.
And so, no, Fantastic Four. Sorry, Fantastic Four. But that was last summer. And so, like, this is our one stepping stone to Doomsday. I think partially, maybe that also is what makes it a must-watch for MCU fans. People just love Spider-Man.
Have we said what movie we're watching? We watched Spider-Man Brand New Day. That's the name of the whole film. Starring Tom Holland.
Yeah, his fourth Spider-Man movie, which is kind of nuts if you think about it. This guy's too old to be playing Spider-Man.
Yeah, he's 30. Savon, what was your excitement level?
He's got pursed lips.
As a known Spidey, not hater, you're just like over it. How did you feel about coming into this one?
You know, it was one of those. I mean, like I said before, I'm thoroughly just burned out on the character and the sheer volume of spider slop that they're just gonna throw at us until the cows come home.
Yeah,
but I never thought that it would be a bad movie. Like
okay.
Spider-Man movies are very rarely poorly made or poorly acted or anything like that. Tom Holland plays the role very well, and they've done a good job of how they want to integrate him into the MCU. So never was I thinking, oh my goodness, Red Flags is gonna be a bad movie. It was more so just, I feel like we've gotten enough of this character, so what can they do? What new stories, what new directions, what can they do with this character to keep it interesting and fresh was kind of my big thing going in. But never did I go in thinking, oh, this movie's not going to be good. It was just, okay, you're milking the cow. How are we gonna
make sure it's good milk?
Gonna keep?
Yeah.
What are we doing to make this movie stand out from the scores of others we've gotten in the past decade?
Fair enough.
Does it pass your lactose intolerance test?
I think it's probably the most fun Spider-Man movie, arguably out of all of them. Like, and I'm talking even the previous, other Spider-Man. It might be the most fun, although I think the story is on the weaker side, and there's other parts of the movie that I think don't quite stand up under scrutiny. But it is fun, and I always see for superhero movies, it being fun is the most important part. It's about these characters with crazy powers and spandex going around doing cool shit. Get that part down first, and then the rest can come natural. And so I gotta be consistent with that. It was a really fun superhero movie that did lots of dope Spider-Man shit, and ultimately that's what the kids are here for.
Okay, I'm interested to see how you define fun later in the pod, because I wouldn't define it as fun, but I enjoyed it. Which I don't, you know what I mean?
Cool
like
Spider-Man does cool Spider-Man shit. Spider-Man is fighting ninjas on wire fu. Him and the Punisher riding through the street. He's kicking Punisher through a van, and Punisher has like a damn near cartoon level, just metal bits and bobbins flying everywhere. Way more wrenches than appropriate for what that kick was. Hulk just John Berthal, oh shit, when the Hulk is going nuts. Like, the movie had fun moments of like, this is a comic book movie. We're not gonna we're not gonna play this part too seriously, and we're gonna let Spider-Man do silly Spider-Man shit. That's what I mean by fun. Not the plot, which has a lot of not fun parts in it.
All right.
But like Spider-Man, when he's Spider-Man, it's really peak Spider-Man.
And it should be noted, for those of you who are like me and don't remember, I'm pretty sure the last Spider-Man movie, which was No Way Home, I think that was 2021, and it was made like during the pandemic, or during the, still kind of the medium part of the pandemic when it was still going on. So it's been 5 years, and we've been wondering for 5 years, like, what has actually been happening to Spider-Man since he, recast the spell, or had Doctor Strange cast the spell to truly make everybody forget about Peter Parker, and what impacts that would have on him. So that's the setup for the movie, is that Peter is the story takes place about 4 years or so after the last movie. He's been having to live his life pretty much alone. He doesn't have Aunt May. He doesn't have his friends, and nobody knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. In fact, nobody remembers Peter Parker at all. Yeah, and so the movie takes place in this world where he's really kind of alone and trying to figure out, like, how do I be the best Spider-Man that I can? And it doesn't really matter who I am as Peter Parker, because nobody knows who I am as Peter Parker anyways. I just have to, like, maximize, he tries to do what Aunt May told him, which is to use his powers for great responsibility, and to take care of New York and save people and stop crime and all of that good stuff. So that's where we're at as we start the story. Look at me. I did a recap. That's probably the first one I've ever done. Let's get into it.
Is this a new feature, or is this a bug?
This is a bug. All right, so pretty different starting point, right? He's unanchored, untethered. We don't have his normal band of characters, right? He doesn't have his spider gang with him right now. He doesn't have Zendaya. He doesn't call her Zendaya.
MJ.
Doesn't have MJ. Doesn't have Aunt May. Doesn't have Happy Hogan to help him. Doesn't have Tony Stark to help him. Doesn't have Ned to help him. He is literally just like no relationships right now. So different point of view for us. And yeah, I don't know. How did you feel about us being able to start Peter in this place, in this movie, Savon?
How he had all them computers and shit.
I
thought the whole point was that it's supposed to be back to the basics. He's supposed to be poor and not have shit. That was the whole thing at the end of the movie. And now this man got a surveillance state, Plantier, flock cam set up, a 3D printer for the new suit, a nice apartment. I guess that threw me for a loop at first of like, oh, he's doing better than me. Okay,
what foreign government is sponsoring Spider-Man?
If I'm gonna be honest, that was kind of my first thought. Is like, oh, when we said back to the basics, I was thinking like he's got a police scanner and he's going off of that. I thought that would be more back to the basics. I didn't think we still had him with like a full basically laboratory and a cool AI. I guess he has some kind of he has a new AI thing that he made or
Evie?
something.
Yeah, who is
Evie? It's a new thing he made. He's got a new suit maker. He still got all his web shit. I'm gonna be honest. I kind of felt like, oh, he's not really doing that bad in terms of the resources part. Like he's doing. I'm saying you asking my honest opinion. Like it's like, oh, I thought he was. I was less of a fan of that because I thought the whole point of stripping. I thought the whole
didn't
point
throw me off at all.
I'm not even gonna open that can of worms. But we have talked in the past about characters having resources and how believable it is. This one, I had questions of like, I don't know where he's getting this shit from.
I think that's fair. They didn't explain it. He just had it.
He just had it, and I'm like, okay, I guess. But I love the emotional place that he's in.
Yeah.
Spider-Man versus the male loneliness epidemic was a very cool subplot of this movie. Of just
that's the true villain of this movie.
The true villain is the male loneliness epidemic. And while I didn't like that he suddenly is still teched out the wazoo, the way they sold us on his isolation, him being alone, the multiple shots of him without his suit, and you see, oh, he is effed up. He's getting bodied. He's really... Like, they did a good job of setting up, hey, man, this is not a healthy lifestyle, which I think is the important part to show he's not in a good place. And I think that was a good way to establish where he's at. To your point, Wes, he's alone. They really drive that part home. And the movie starts off, and I'm like, dang. Tech questions aside, this looks rough, buddy. This looks like a really shitty emotional place to be. So, I'm glad that was a good establishing through line.
Yeah. I'm glad though that he was like enjoying, like it wasn't total like I'm just in like this terrible state. He was like enjoying that he was contributing to his community. He was saving, people in his neighborhood, and he was putting all of himself into it. So it wasn't like it was a total disaster. It was just like he was doing that at the cost. Exactly. He was doing that at the cost of like actually making connections with people and figuring out like how he could actually make connections again, as his non-superhero self.
Yeah, but that's bad though. Like in the opening thing, the cop says, "We're not friends. You never talk about your life. I never met you." Like they make it clear that's the closest thing to a friend or relationship he has, and it's not even a good one. Like
it's a good one. It's just not. It's not one that he can actually like build off of, right?
Yeah, it's not a good one. The point is that he's coping hard as fuck, and it's a great place to establish that he's like where he's. I mean, we see him having even earlier because we don't know what's up, but we see him having the physical. He's talking about having cluster headaches, and his wrists are like trembling all crazy, like weird. Like they're making it clear, hey man, this isn't just he's working hard, but it's all working out. It's like, no, B, mentally you are a wreck, physically you are a wreck. This shit is not. They spend the first 10 minutes. Hey, bro, this sucks. Which I thought was a great place to have him.
Yeah, but he's beloved by all of New York at this point. And
the streets love him.
Yeah, he's out there. Like they're all about Spider-Man. Like people are happy when they see him. The cop. I mean, like he does have a relationship with this cop who he's just like talking to on the phone all the time, which is kind of weird and funny. He was in a very interesting place, and like the move, like one of the big things to answer going into this movie, right? Like, how is Tom Holland gonna anchor a movie without having Robert Downey Jr., without having all the previous Spider-Man, without having all these other actors and characters who have really established
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Themselves. Yeah, do the heavy lifting.
Who was just a great actor.
Right. Like, and so the movie is stripped down quite a bit, even though it is chock full of
stripped down to his skivvies. This man is shirtless a lot of times. Woo.
Anybody shipping Spider-Man and Yelena?
Hey, let's go.
Was it just me?
You wonder if they made out in the bathhouse?
You know what happens in bathhouses?
Is this middle school right now?
They might have.
Yes.
Anyways.
Don't think you weren't fantasizing about that, Savon.
So it's
that
like
6-pack.
I'm not 12.
6-pack.
I think it is fun that in this movie, like he does have like a roster of side characters, right? And of other MCU characters, right? He talks to Elena. He has an active relationship with the Punisher. Of course, the Hulk and Bruce Banner make their appearances. It's not that he has a relationship with them, but the movie is stripped down, but at the same time, it is still chock full of like all these other MCU characters.
Maybe too many.
Which makes it fun. I think, and actually like makes the movie to me like very in line with the Spider-Man comic books, right? This is like, to me, like the movie really feels like the comic in that they're just like all these characters that exist in the universe that are coming in and out of Spider-Man's life. But unlike the previous movies where, you know, Tony Stark is just the one really driving things along, this is Spider-Man's movie. This is Spider-Man.
He's got a lot of agency
decisions
in this one.
And driving everything forward and dealing with like his loneliness and all, you know, all the things, all the like the personal baggage. That is the thing that is carrying the movie forward, unlike the previous three.
Yeah, he's a fully established hero now. And it's a dope place to see the character before, where he's learning, he's mentoring, or he's getting mentored, all of this. It's a very, absolutely, Brian, definitely seeing him that. One quick comment about the side characters, because I know we have mixed feelings sometimes about side characters popping up in these Marvel properties. Yes, Brian, Spider-Man is very well known for crossing over with other characters, a lot more than others. Like, he is very much a hero that everybody knows. The same way in the movie, everyone knows Spider-Man. Like, he's not just a hero like Batman, who's like a legend or a rumor, or you see him. Spider-Man is like a legit public figure. Like, if you walk through New York, and he was real, he's like, oh, you saw Spider-Man swinging through the streets, yada, yada, yada. Like, he's really a man of the people. And it did a good job of establishing that even the other superpower community, even the ones who don't know each other, are familiar with him. But a good use of the side characters in this movie is that, unlike the others where it served as like adults to kind of chastise Peter and blah, 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 the other characters in here serve more as like lessons and cautions for him in a way that felt a lot more like he's not just a little kid in the room. Punisher's telling him, hey man, if you don't get your loneliness shit together, you're gonna be like me, and this ain't it. Hulk warns him about the whole messing with technology thing of like, hey man, you're playing with fire, just letting you know this is a dangerous route you're going through. You know, who else popped up?
There are cautionary tales.
But the side characters serve.
And Yelena is just like your small
tells
potatoes.
the same thing.
Wait, no. Even Yelena, she emphasizes to him, hey man, you can't just be lonely and by yourself. Like, she kind of also drives home, hey, I noticed that you really don't be working with nobody or have friends and all that. And she kind of jokingly,
which is her story arc, right?
Yeah. It's her, which she just learned in the last movie. Like, hey man, that ain't it. Which is a nice little Thunderbolts callback, but it makes sense in the context of her character. So I actually really want to shout this movie out for giving us a bunch of fun Marvel character cameos, but they weren't just cameos for the sake of it. The characters actually did provide meaningful insight for Spider-Man and for the lesson that he needs to take from the movie, which is don't be alone. This is how you could end up if you're alone. And when you're playing with certain types of technology and things that mess with DNA, hey man, that's a very dangerous boat you're getting into in terms of finding balance and suppressing and all of that. And like, it all fits well into Spider-Man's conflict and the main villain Jean's conflict. But I gotta give him props for that. Very good use of their cameos beyond just, oh, here's a fun character, ha ha ha, okay, they're gone. Like, that's not an easy thing to do, and I gotta give him props while still maintaining the vibe of a Spider-Man story.
Spawn is so smart. and they showed us Scorpion and Tombstone and the hand, and like
you get his whole rogue gallery.
All comic book goodness, yeah.
And you know, a bunch of those shots are references to his OG comic like covers. So all of that you can just freeze frame and it's a comic, or it's like a reference to the character, or it's the entire intro. You can just pause it and find the comic. And so again, moments like that where I said, that's what I also meant when I said fun, Wes. Like, hey, we're gonna open this shit up with just a bunch of fun characters and Spider-Man fighting them, and we're gonna do comic homages, and like, yeah, man, we're just gonna have a lot of fun. Like,
it's crazy how many of those they fit in without them feeling like too like fan servicey. They fit in a lot. It was like 4 or 5. Yeah, but
it didn't. Covers,
I didn't think it like ruined it. I didn't think it ruined the movie, and it didn't feel like they went like so far out of the way to like do it that you're like, what are we doing here? It just happened in like some montages, right? Like mostly it was in the montages of him fighting crime, and then they would freeze frame it on like the part that was matches the cover of the previous the comic book.
Which,
so
you know,
cool.
superhero movies do that all the time. Like, superhero movies having
Probably.
a shot that matches the cover isn't the most original thing, but they did it creatively. Spider-Man has a lot of source material to pull from, and they had a very deep bag for their homages, and they did it very creatively, tastefully, without distracting from the film. But
all right,
good use of these side characters.
What were the strengths of the movie in your opinion? I have a strong opinion on this one. What was the strongest part of the film?
Go ahead.
Okay,
present your strong opinion.
Yeah, all right. Wes got an opinion.
Well, it dovetailed with the part I thought was the weakest part of the movie. So the part that I thought was the strongest was how we got set up for this movie in the beginning was Spider-Man is alone. He's missing his friends. He's obviously still torn about not being in MJ's life and having to give her up, right? Like he lets her go, and so that she could have her best life, so that she could be safe and not associated with him, because he recognized that like her being in his life was always going to be a danger to her. And throughout the movie, we see that like he's having these consequences of that. Maybe the spider changes are due to that loneliness. Maybe it's due to his overworking. Maybe it's due to just natural hormonal developments. We don't know. And I feel like that's actually one of the things they should have cleaned up a little bit. But
they did explain that.
Nah, I think it was like used at different times as different explanations, and I think they should have just stuck with one idea. But that's not what I'm talking about. I want to talk about the strengths, and that like the moment that builds up to is the moment when I'm just gonna call her Zendaya. When Zendaya finds the letter that he had originally wrote it, and how he wanted to explain himself to her at the end of the last movie, and she finds it, and he reveals, you know, she learns that like, wait a second, like we were together, that like you loved me and that I loved you, and that like the reason why this happened was to avoid and to protect you. And she realizes that like he's held on to this knowledge that he didn't come find her, and that he's been like holding a candle for her. And just, I think like that moment on the boat where they're just having to like sort through all these different ideas and feelings and stuff was just like really good stuff. And like, I don't know, I was ready for that moment to be explored. And I love that like the movie didn't necessarily let any of them off the hook right away. It was just sort of like, how could you? Oh, and we had the moment on the rooftop, right, where they made out. And then it turns out that was not a real makeout. That was due to Jean Grey's control. And like I bought it. I was like, oh, she like somehow the power of love had like restored her memory. And then it turns out like, nope, not how that works, buddy. This is not a fairy tale.
Effed with.
Yeah, and like the incredible like terribleness of that, right? Just like the fact that like Zendaya is made to kiss somebody without her knowledge, against her will. But Peter doesn't know that. And so for Peter, this is like an amazing moment. And then she takes it away, and like how she, being Jean Grey, takes this away from him and like really like, you know, spoils the whole thing. And I mean, I just thought all of that was like really juicy stuff that I was like really invested in. Like, how are they going to come out of this? Like, how is MJ going to hold her stance on like, I'm no longer that person, and like as much as like I can see you and I cared about each other before, we don't have a relationship anymore. And they, you know, she kind of names that explicitly. You know, would it be where like Peter can actually convince her, and like they would fall in love again as new, you know, a new relationship might blossom, even though they're different people, but maybe still destined lovers. And you know, all these ideas we've seen in plenty of movies and Shakespeare and all this stuff. And I just loved that aspect of it. And I was on. Anytime that was happening on screen, that was when I was most invested in the movie. So I thought that was just a huge win for the movie. I don't know, Savon, if you felt that way or if you felt differently.
So wait, I'm confused. So what was your strong take? You're saying you liked this, and you liked the parts with the MJ like romance subplot?
Yeah, I love that. I thought that was like, to me, and his relationship with Ned, and like how they hit it off right away. And it was like, even though you don't know each other, the movie is telling us like you two have a connection with each other, right? Like, and that just because you've had a memory revive spell doesn't mean your body doesn't know, your soul doesn't know that like these are your safe people, right? And that's what Peter needed. He needed people in his life who he was connected to. And so I just like, I wanted to see like how that would play out. And I loved that we got some of that in this movie. And I think anytime that was happening on screen, that's where I thought the movie was like really singing. And I thought that's where it was doing its best work. I don't know if you guys felt the same way.
Brian, you want to take it?
Why is Savon so silent here?
I don't know.
I'll jump in.
I mean, I have a thought, but I'll let you go.
Aside, yeah, I think the strengths of the movie, aside from all the fun comic book crossover stuff, in which we basically got, the classic Spider-Man versus Punisher, Punisher versus Hulk, Spider-Man versus Hulk, like aside from that stuff, which is delightful. I do think the strength of this movie hinges on Tom Holland's believability and relatability as sad boy Peter Parker pining after his girlfriend MJ,
and his friend Ned.
and his best bud, my Filipino homie Ned, and seeing like the longing and the vulnerability of all of that, really carries the character forward. And I agree with you, like the best moments of the movie are when all of the action drops off and we're stuck in these very human, very very like young adult moments, right, of going to the apartment party where you don't know anybody and you're seeing your girlfriend kiss somebody else,
your ex-girlfriend.
or I guess ex-girlfriend in this situation. I think I've been at that party like multiple times for sure.
Which person were you? Were you the guy making out with the girl? Or
at parties I use my lips, that's all I'm saying.
You were the Mr. Steal Your Man.
But also like the moments of
Steal Your Girl,
like Spider-Man, swinging with MJ, and MJ's kind of like giving him these looks, like what is going on with this guy? And then of course, you mentioned the letter scene, but also the scenes after that, where he takes MJ back to the apartment, sits down with Ned as Spider-Man, but they're having a connective moment over Legos. It was a movie reference that I didn't even get. Did you guys get that movie reference?
It was
the Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
They did a whole Lord of the Rings bit.
I completely was like,
it wasn't very well enunciated, but he did. Apparently, I saw YouTube later because I didn't know either. I was like, clearly they're doing a movie quote, but I don't know which movie.
The accent. They were doing like the accents, right?
Yeah. So they were doing. There was an interchange between Gandalf and Frodo, where they were just saying what they said, and he was telling him about like, The Hobbit, basically.
They were quoting Lord of the Rings like some effing nerds.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
They had a nice moment, but I think those are probably the standout scenes in the movie, right? Where the chemistry between three characters that we've come to know and love, really show up and pull you into their world, right? Like those are the relationships that I think, we probably identify with the most just as people.
Yep.
So the movie did a really swell job with those. Savon is skeptical.
Man.
So this is my real hot take about the film, because I talked about, because for all my
we're just asking for strengths right now. Well, I just need a response to what I said.
Hey, I've been only hyping up I've been saying nothing but nice shit about this movie so far.
Okay,
like let's just be real.
Well, you did criticize him having the bag in the beginning.
Yeah, because that shit didn't make no sense. But
he doesn't have a job. Like they have not established. Like what is he even doing? How does he have an apartment?
They needed him to have. Look, they don't want to have him actually look poor, so they gave him a nice apartment, and he needed his tech for his surveillance state movie, so they gave him the shit. The same people who gave him the BMW and that flip phone, the sponsors. Anyways, their corporal sponsors. No, but corpos. So here's my thing with, like, I guess with Ned and MJ. I feel like they did a better job with Ned in this movie than with MJ. And the way MJ was used in the movie, I felt like she could have just not been in it. And
hot take.
What?
So wait, hear me out. And this has nothing to do with the acting of the character. It has to do with like what the story has room for. My frustration was that I'm okay with them keeping MJ and Ned memories being wiped. You have to make that decision of the last movie stick, otherwise it undercuts the entire plot of a very pivotal Spider-Man.
Correct.
I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with Peter even doing the longing from a distance, trying to reconnect or longing it. Like, I thought all that was super well done. I loved when they're hanging out at the apartment and Ned and Peter immediately, with no memory of each other, have a level of nerd chemistry that just transcends memory. Because that's a real thing. You've all had, before we have moments where you meet somebody like, oh, within 5 minutes of talking, you're like, oh yeah, this guy knows what's up. Or, oh yeah, this person, you know,
you're into the same thing as me. Yeah, we can
instant vibe check. And I'm like, that was one of the most realistic parts of the movie of like, oh man, I've seen Friends. I've been in this, and I thought that was great. And I like that opened up a Peter, even though you've lost these memories, you still have a foundation and shared values to where you could still build something and build back what you have lost, or build something new that's different than what you lost. I thought that was fine. I just think they completely dropped the ball with doing the same for MJ. It felt like as long as those two didn't have a romantic relationship, there was nothing else for them to be able to have as common ground. And I didn't like that. I felt like it kind of reduced her character to only love interests. And her whole bit through the last Spider-Man movies has been, she's a very interesting, you know, colorful, has personality character beyond just her relationship to Spider-Man. In fact, her whole thing of being a sarcastic, you know, kind of like cynical kind of ass was a really endearing trait that, like, I guess where I was at was Ned and Peter, no memory. We had a moment. We even had a moment where MJ even says, oh man, y'all two look like best friends. I wanted a moment like that where I wanted MJ to be a part of that moment too, where, hey, why can't it be all of y'all being best friends? Because it wasn't just a duo. All three of y'all were like homies. The whole thing is that the three of y'all be on the roof talking about living together in college. And I felt like the writers couldn't decide. They didn't know what to do with MJ if she wasn't a romantic interest of Peter. And they decided to just say, oh, well, we can't do anything or it's over, rather than like at least establish a friendship or something. And I wasn't a fan of that because Ned showed that they could do it if they wanted to. But in my mind, Peter and MJ should have a relationship or common ground beyond just romantic. But it feels like, oh, if we're not in love, then we can't have anything. And I just didn't really like how that sat because MJ feels kind of like just there as a thing. That's real,
but I also didn't get that vibe.
MJ is just there as a thing for Peter to protect or get threatened, rather than like by the end of the movie, you feel hopeful for Ned and Peter, and I'm like, okay, I would love for us to have that with MJ too. I would have loved for it to have been all three of them at the coffee shop, and then he tries to initiate and build it. But
you think he's got a handshake with MJ?
Definitely.
No, but my point is that, you know, it's
other appendages.
You know, I mean, the two of y'all in relationships, like, don't y'all still have things in common with like your wives beyond just like y'all romantic relationship? Like, if I threw y'all two in a room together with no memory, wouldn't you still be able to ideally vibe off of something? Yeah, I wanted them to give her that the way they did for Ned, and I thought it was a big missed opportunity because the character's well acted, but felt like if she's just gonna be the love interest who's moved on, she doesn't really have a lot to do in this movie, and I thought that was a bit of a waste.
I hear what you're saying, but I think the relationship between Peter and MJ in these movies has been kind of thin in a way, right? Like, she is the love interest. Like, that is her purpose in these movies, unfortunately, for better or for worse. Though they have helped shade her in, right? She's sort of like an emo-ish character.
And she's smart. She helps him fix the goggles. Like, they did a little bit of that of like, so, okay, she's not just nothing, but
which is where the point that I'm going to get to, right? Where, like, story-wise, I think it does make sense why she's a little bit withheld, as they talk about in that scene before the goggles, where she's on the bunk bed while Peter's working on the inhibitor. Right, like, she's talking about how her boyfriend, not Peter Parker, finds that she is withheld. She also says at the party, right, like, she didn't take some job, she wasn't excited for it, she's waiting for something else. Her boyfriend kisses her, like, things, and she kind of has like a reaction that's not what you would expect for somebody in a happy relationship, right? And then you have that moment. Of course, it was Jean Grey, but like the way that they played it, I think it still speaks to where MJ is at. That moment on top of the billboard, and and she's saying that like she recognizes that something is wrong. And I think that's actually where the character is at throughout this whole movie, is that MJ, having her mind wiped, is still somewhat conscious that something in her life is missing. Something important is missing. Something is off. And she's being withdrawn because of that. Because a part of herself is absent. And we're seeing the results of everything that has happened because of that spell. But she does have that moment of intimacy with Peter in a very real relationship kind of way, where they're talking about their feelings of being withdrawn, of that absence of wanting something more that's not there. And that is the thing that they are connecting on, right? It's something like more deeply emotional and personal and less superficial than quoting Lord of the Rings or talking about Star Wars, which are nice for friends, but when it comes to lovers, it's something way more abstract, actually. And I think that's where their relationship was. And I think Zendaya does a great job of selling that to me, right? Like she actually is like a real big emotional anchor throughout the movie, even though that she doesn't get to play slapstick and be like overt in the way that Ned's character is. She's playing withdrawn, but still doing that in a way that has a lot of gravity.
Okay, that's fair. There's definitely moments. That's fair. There's definitely moments that kind of establish the emotional thing. Would I still like to have seen a little more? Yes, but to your point, it's probably not as not done as maybe I initially thought. That's fair.
I think what you're sort of getting to is like when I said that like my strength is also like connected to the weaknesses, like I actually wanted them to explore this way more. It gets some time in the movie and it's an important part of the movie. I just felt like this is the part where the movie is like grappling with actual ideas and actual feelings and like actual tension and conundrums and conflicts much more than any other part of the movie was. And I want to sort of pivot here to the villain of the movie, which ends up like being Jean Grey and sort of being the DODC, being like co-villains and being co-villains to each other as well. That like,
oh yeah, not maybe, they are co-villains.
Yeah, right? Like so
they suck.
And I don't want to necessarily do a whole summary of like the thing, but what ends up being to me is like the connection between Peter and MJ. We're so invested in that, or I'm so invested. Maybe I'm not going to speak for you guys. I'm invested in that because of the time that they've had together on screen so far in previous movies, and because we reset them at the end of the last movie in a really like profound way, right? And we haven't explored yet whether that's going to work, whether there's going to be some fallout, whether there's going to be a way back to where it was, or whether they have to go in a slightly different or in a different direction. Clearly he was trying to avoid, but this movie showed that he couldn't avoid. And for whatever reason, they were brought back together. And I loved the exploration of that we got. And I wish just we got more. In the same, in sort of contrast to that, Jean Grey shows up. We don't really learn her identity until the very end. Who's not, a super comic booky, like into the weeds person. I don't know, the ins and outs of Jean Grey's story. I tend to think of Jean Grey as a fairly, I would say, good, quote unquote, good character, right? She wants to help people for the most part. Sometimes she can't control her own powers, but she hasn't been someone who strayed on the side of like, I'm out for revenge, or I'm a malicious person. Yeah, as far as the times that I've seen her on TV, whether that's the X-Men comics, or sorry, the X-Men TV show, or in X-Men movies, she's mostly been someone who's like, trying to do the right thing and trying to find herself. And in this movie, she is not. She's someone who's hell-bent on finding her sister, saving her sister at any cost, no matter whose life it costs, no matter what she has to do, no matter what assaults or traumas she has to perpetuate on other people, none of that matters to her. She is not someone who's empathetic to anybody else's problems. And this movie tries to make this connection with Peter and Jean Grey by the end, where we're trying to explore these two and like what they're like, how they might be connected in terms of like similarities in their story and yada, yada, yada. And like Jean Grey has just shown up. There wasn't actually room for them to like have this connection and be super connected and feel invested in each other. In fact, Jean Grey has really fucked with Peter by making Zendaya kiss him and then taking that away from him. And at the end, like he shows her empathy. He shows her the love that she needs by letting her into his mind and yada, yada, yada. And maybe that changes her in some ways. But all of that felt like really forced to me. And it felt like really, to me, I got the feeling like by the end, I was like, they just wanted Jean Grey in this. Like Jean Grey is not a natural part of the story. She's not a natural part of this world. She's not usually in Spider-Man comics, as far as I know, as like someone they're facing off against. You know, she's not in his team. You know, and so like my one thing that I wish the movie had done differently is I actually wish Jean Grey hadn't been the villain at all, and there was some other villain, or DODC was just the main villain and that's it, and they were doing something terrible because they were, you know, like that would have been to me a much more like, I don't know how to say it, like genuine or like earned way of building the story and building like a conflict. It could have even been that Peter was having to save, you know, Sasha Grey somehow, right? Like maybe that was the deal, is that like she was the villain, or not that she was the victim, you know, and that he was the one having to save her.
He should have saved Sasha Grey. She needs saving. Yes, she does.
What? Why are you saying that? Is that sarcastic?
Savon, you know who Sasha Grey is, right?
I don't know what you're talking about. Anyways,
please, Wes, please Google the name Sasha Grey.
Oh, okay.
But I
I
hear what you're saying.
Is that the wrong character?
I hear what you're saying, Wes.
Jean
Grey was
Sasha
like
Grey. Wait, wasn't her name?
It's okay. Let's moving on. We'll let you live.
Jean Grey as a villain was like really terrifying, actually, and kind of effing cool. Not gonna lie, jumping from host to host and then messing with Peter as much as she was, like surrounding him with
Sarah Grey,
all these people. all you listeners out there, check out Jean Grey's sister Sasha.
The self-report is
she's got a lot of movies out there.
Sarah Grey. Do not look up Sasha Grey.
Not the MCU either.
But
okay,
I think to your point, Wes, like especially at the end of the movie, right? Especially after MJ, Ned, and Spider-Man, not Peter, Spider-Man are having this moment in the apartment, and then we're launched into a new third act of the movie where it really revolves around what's going on with Jean Grey, and landing at this pseudo connection between Spider-Man and Jean Grey, right? Like all of that did feel like, okay, now we're setting up the X-Men coming into the MCU, and here's the new Jean Grey backstory, and she's a different type of character, but this is the MCU's version of Jean Grey, and she's on the bus.
Also, don't want that to be her backstory.
She's going to the Xavier Institute, I guess, because that's probably Westchester where she's driving.
Would it have been better if it had been a different character or like some new person they made up, or is this us with expectations we've kind of like?
Yeah,
how much of this is the movie doing versus our preconceived opinions about character?
100%.
It's kind of like the relationship. Well, but so like came out of nowhere. If the emotional core of the movie, right, is about Peter and being isolated, and you know, and then like trying to reestablish these connections with his loved ones, right, and then throwing Jean Grey into the mix, I don't know. It did feel kind of weird, and like I don't think the movie ever properly resolves why this villain, why this hero should be connected in
Right.
the emotional way that they want it to mean. To me, that it felt almost sort of like like they did
He
not
had
stick
no
the
reason.
landing.
Can I take this one on a little bit?
Can I just say one last
please,
thing?
finish.
And the movie spends a lot of time of the villain messing with Peter Parker, right? Like messing with the fact that he is isolated and
not
using
even messing.
his loved ones.
She's actively like terrifying to him.
Like doing it in a very vindictive kind of way where
it's terrible.
It would only make sense for a villain that has a personal grudge with Peter Parker himself or with Spider-Man himself.
Yeah.
And that is not the motivation for Jean Grey at all in context of this movie. So like everything that she does with Zendaya goes out the window. It's like, well, like why did you bring in an innocent bystander into this? Like what does Peter's home life even matter to you? It has zero bearing on what you're trying to do, which is save your sister. And so yes, I do think they could have had the same impact from a villain like perpetrating this stuff, but it not be Jean Grey. Like it should have been somebody else who had a vendetta, and who would have had some other sort of like some other sort of reason to drive Peter's emotional story forward.
See, I didn't have an issue necessarily with her in terms of her motivations as a villain, because, and this is maybe just me being an X-Men reader, but like a lot of X-Men comics, a key theme with all the X-Men is that a lot of them are like, a lot of their thing is that they are explicitly angry at the world, do lash out because how they've been treated. Like a key thing with most X-Men origin stories is that they were effing up or not doing something good or using their powers for bad or something, and then they found guidance. Like characters like even Storm, her character's like a criminal at first, or like a thief or a pickpocket. Like, I guess my point is that a key thing of X-Men Origins has always been they're treated like I guess for me, I understood Jean's motivations because from my perspective, she's an orphan who got kicked out by her mom, was a runaway with her sister. Her sister gets kidnapped, and then we learn literally just murdered by the government. For someone who's just a teenager, I don't think it's outrageous for her to be so angry at the world that she's essentially just lashing out, because that is what she's doing. And she makes it pretty clear. Part of why she hates Peter is because in her mind, people with abilities and powers don't get to have a normal thing. And so she's projecting that onto him. It's not right. It's not fair. But in her mind, yo, my life is sucked and it's because of these powers and abilities. So you know what? It's going to suck for everybody because that's just how this shit goes. And I think that's actually a very believable motivation for like a traumatized runaway teenager with more power than they could imagine. Like I said, that's usually the setup of most X-Men DLC shit is like, hey, they can't control it. We got to get them under control. Then like the push-pull of that. I actually thought that worked. And when they did say Jean Grey was a character in the movie, I was a little thrown off, but also I said, you know what? Let me keep an open mind, because the alternative is that we get the same Spider-Man villains and retreads that we've seen a bazillion times. How many versions of Goblin, Octopus, whatever are we get before it's kind of been retread ground? So I actually respected they went for something different. I like the role she played, and I like that they frankly framed I know Jean's stuff she's doing. I thought it was great villain work, but
probably the best villain Spider-Man has ever had.
Yeah, it's a good, like, I was
really?
open to
I like Vulture. I think Vulture's still my number one.
He was good in the he was good in the context of the story, but like I think Jean is more interesting because she also has the parallel of the power, trying to control it, what it means. I thought the whole control inhibitor collar thing, even watching the movie, I was like, this feels, even before they even said Jean was in the movie, I was like, inhibitor collar, that feels very X-Men coded. Like, all right, now Peter, chill out with that shit. And then you learn Jean Grey's in the movie. I actually thought they did a good job of making that connection between her, Hulk, Peter of powers, them not being controlled, and what does the expression of those powers mean in terms of how you move through the world. My actually only issue I had with Jean, and DOC being the real villains, like Damage Control being the real bad guy, I thought that was great. My only real complaint with Jean wasn't even with Jean. It was just that Peter's whole thing with her was you're not alone. And I thought that was a good message to drive because that's what he's trying to drive through. But I felt like in the context of the movie, Jean was still alone. By the time the movie ends, she's gone off by herself.
She's alone
and like,
on the bus.
And I think that's fine. Like, she can be alone, but I didn't like them framing it as Spider-Man. Like, I'm okay. It's just going to sound nitpicky, but I think it's important for like the message they're trying to drive home. The idea of him saying you're not alone and don't letting it define you, I think is fine. Because that's a good message and it helps, it helps calm the shit down. Jean was never a character you was going to be beaten to submission. She's too strong. You got to talk her down. But him saying you're not be alone, you have me, that's where they lost me because I'm like, no, y'all, you're not. You're going to be in New York doing your own separate shit. She's leaving. Y'all are on completely different paths. You can maybe find a kindred spirit or something like that. And maybe that's what he meant. But maybe him saying you're not spiritually alone, cool, but it doesn't change that she is alone in the end of this movie. And I felt like that alone kind of undercut the buildup, which otherwise I thought was good in terms of a non-traditional Spider-Man villain and all of these things. So I like Jean. I thought she was great. It's just it's okay for you to say she actually is alone, but maybe that is you setting up her finding the X-Men later, which we know, but don't make it seem like Spider-Man is her comfort zone because that's just not the relationship that's established, even if it ends on one of mutual understanding. Also, we haven't talked about this at all. The movie was scared. They should have went full Man Spider. The fact that they were teasing Man Spider throughout the movie and then they didn't have the nuts to actually go through it.
They dropped the ball on that.
I know that it's a kid's movie and they don't want it to be horror, but in that case, don't do the pseudo body horror web shit and him waking up in a cocoon and black eyes if you're not going to at least do a little bit of the Man Spider. I thought that was
Can you explain Man Spider to the crowd and me?
Basically, it's just the whole hormone. Oh, you want this, Brian?
Go ahead.
Running my mouth. You want it?
Oh, I mean, it's just the idea of him becoming an actual spider. Like a giant spider.
Does something set him off? Like, does someone turn him into that, or does his natural spider DNA kick in?
Depends on the writing. Depends on the writing, but the gist of it is that his spider power DNA is going out of control.
Does he turn into a villain at that point? Usually,
he becomes it's like in the movie. He loses control and he becomes more powerful but more unhinged. But the comic leans into it's like that Marvel Rival skin where he's an actual spider with the ripped suit and the furry face and the shit.
No, I know what the character looks like. He's in Marvel Snap too. I just didn't know if he sort of kind of like the Hulk where you lose your human side of you and he becomes more spidery.
It's very much him. It's the natural progression of what the movie already hinted at of imagine that but further and he becomes actual spider. I thought they were hinting at that and the fact they didn't pull the trigger was disappointing.
It became such a nothing burger, right?
Okay.
Oh no, he's gotta inhibit this thing or else what? And then we never get to what. And ultimately,
the ones that he almost kills the police. He hurts a police officer.
He just finds balance.
Got too much rage.
The movie just had a couple so he just talks Jean Grey down and says, "Oh, actually, you're not alone." Oh, he just gets control of That's what I meant when I said this movie is fun. But the story left a little bit the story parts of for me they should have chose between MJ as the focus or the Jean thing. They kind of meandered between both.
This is the point I was trying to make.
If it's Man Spider, pick is he either don't tease us with it, but then there's kids in the theater, so you don't want to lean all into that concept. Then just pull away from that. Don't tease me with that. Fun, one of the most fun Spider-Man movies, but the writing felt frankly, it was hard for them to justify us needing this movie outside of the fact that it would make a ton of money. Although the X-Men setup was great, and I do like that Spider-Man will be the enemy of the X-Men down the line because he really, really effed up.
Whoops.
I think there's going to be good long-term development for his character in terms of him dealing with the Tony Stark style. You really F things up, folks. But
with the inhibitor.
In the context, as soon as but in the context of the movie,
he created the thing that's going to control the mutants.
X-Men are going to hate this, man.
They're all going to be wearing collars.
It's going to mess up their whole lives. Yeah, for sure.
So good world building setup, but in a fun movie. But I think part of me is just did we need this movie?
Yeah, it feels kind of mostly a standalone adventure for Spider-Man in which the needle does not move too much for him. Slightly, it's sort of like a half step, right? this really cataclysmic thing happened in the third Spider-Man movie. And now we're dealing with the fallout of it. And by the end of this movie, right, like the big change is the X-Men. The big change for Spider-Man is
talk to Ned.
Him and Ned realize they do the same handshake.
Yeah.
And maybe he can start like getting back into their lives. And
and
not much more than that.
And she know the police lady's children's names.
Yeah.
He's more social.
It's a difficult follow-up for how big they went in the previous movie, right? Like this movie feels like so much quieter and a little bit inconsequential.
What happened
in comparison? And
even though
it was like such a good, enjoyable ride, like I do think is probably one of the most Spider-Man movies. All at the same time, like with few stakes. It really
interesting.
It didn't feel like we went someplace new and that the table has been set differently. It's like, all right, we're almost there. We're getting there.
You need friends, Peter.
There's going to be more story later. That's how it felt ultimately.
Oh, I didn't mind that though. That like I wouldn't want it to be. Well, I didn't want it to be by the time the second half of the movie's coming around. I didn't want it to be like, oh, we've undone everything. We fixed it. Peter's a perfect person now, and he's like solved his loneliness problem. And him and Ned are besties, and like they're totally back to working together exactly how they were before. And I like that like MJ, by the end was sort of like, we're kind of at a like, okay, we're like at a new friend stage. We're just like, okay, that's sort of where we're at. So yeah, I didn't mind that we're not like that. All that stuff hasn't been like fully resolved. I just wish that like, even if you hadn't got to the end where it's fully resolved, I want it to be at a place where you've had time to explore their relationship more. And yeah, the whole Jean Grey thing, I think all the problems you're pointing to it is like, for one, I don't tend to think of her as a villain. It's fine if she is, but then like she did pretty horrible things, and for her to get off with no consequences is kind of like,
Wes, what is you with the consequences thing,
and
bro?
Then, like what's wrong with consequences?
The consequences because it's one of those. It's not the legal system, bro. The girl did all. No,
I don't think she needs to go to. I'm not saying she has to be in jail.
The consequence that her sister got killed. Like,
what did she lose? Like in this process of like finding herself, or what did she gain? I don't know. Like, there's just like stuff that was unexplored there. But she wasn't the cause of losing her sister. Like her sister had already been taken. Kind of like how we talked in last episode about Aang, right? Like he had to choose to give up something in order to gain something, and that's. There's choices that these characters have to make. I mean, I don't even know if this will work. I'm not a writer, so I'm not going to pretend like I know better than writers, whatever. It's like, could you have put Jean Grey in the movie earlier as herself? Maybe we don't know that she's Jean Grey. Maybe she's using a different name because she's like in hiding or whatever. And her and Peter cross paths in some way where they have to work together, or they have some kind of like thing, maybe they meet at the library or they meet at whatever.
Wes, what are you talking about right now?
What I'm talking about is like, could you make it so that there's a connection between Peter and Jean Grey that is separate from her mutant identity, that is just her as a person, that would maybe explain why like Peter tries so hard to save her, right? In a way that like, does that make sense? Like, why is he invested in her success here? And that would give you at least some semblance of a reason why, like later in the movie,
because he relates to somebody who struggles and is alone with, like the whole reason they empathize.
But could you have done that? Could you have done that earlier, and maybe her like not her Jean Grey identity in some way, or like maybe she just introduces herself as Jean.
I mean,
and they get to know each other a little bit.
I mean, right now I feel like you're just talking about a different. Like we're just talking about making a different movie. Like,
no,
I guess
you could have all the same stuff, but. That it gives you a reason why Peter and Jean should be connected, right? They're already starting to build something, and then that relationship that they're just building gets flipped on its head because it turns out that actually she's after this thing and she's making poor choices and she's hurting people, but Peter has seen her maybe genuine self, right? Or a goodness in her.
We're talking about a different whole type of movie, bro. This whole movie was a mystery of like, I get what you're saying, but now it just feels like we're just making up a new film right now.
Why? He wouldn't have to know that she's the mutant. It could still be a mystery, and then a twist. They're like, oh shit, it's actually Jean Grey, this person that I thought I knew.
Because the movie was never about like Jean Grey and Peter having like a regular, yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and I know it wasn't that. I'm saying I think it would have been aided by that, because it would have made more sense why some of the things played out at the end the way that they did, in terms of Jean being maybe having some goodness underneath, but like being blinded by her rage or her grief or whatever, by her, the situation that by trauma. And so she can't see her own goodness. She's lashing out, and and Peter can see like, oh, there's like something underneath that we need to uncover. And I'm invested in this because I saw it already, right? I saw a glimpse of it, and I know I have hope that like it's there. Whereas like he doesn't do the same thing for Scorpion. He doesn't do the same thing for these other villains. He just like puts them in jail, and that's it, right? Like he's not connected to them, and so he goes out of his way at the end to save her, right, with his memories of Aunt May, and lets Aunt May kind of express love to her that she needs. And like all that would have just hit a little bit harder if they had already established that like in some ways Peter understood her before she understood herself, or before he understood this other side of her. I think that could have been better. I don't know how you do that. I'm not a writer, but I kind of think that there's other movies that have done things like that. In the same way that like Vulture's dad, right? Like you meet him as like a guy that's like down on his luck. He's trying his hard thing, and then you meet him as like a dad of someone that Peter is interested in. And then there's that turn of like, oh, this guy has really gone off the deep end, and we've actually been rivals this entire time. And they're both slowly realizing at the time, like what a magnificent scene that was. But you don't want to retread the same idea here, but I think in terms of like, can you establish something between them ahead of time before it turns into like, oh, this is actually the villain that you need to figure out how to support in some way, right? And even Mysterio had that. Mysterio was somebody to him first, and then turns out that he's not quite that.
I mean, yeah.
This one just felt like, oh, we're throwing Jean Grey in, and as someone who's familiar with Jean Grey as like, a more of a good guy.
Yeah,
it was really jarring. It was really jarring to be like, this is the same Jean Grey you're gonna know later as a good guy. It's like, yo, this person's pretty irredeemable. She's done pretty horrible things.
So you think the character, like, you think
on purpose?
Do you think they've kind of like ruined the character in terms of being able to be heroic down the line?
I don't know that they have. I think you can always like retcon things later and figure out how to like have them go through something. I thought in this movie it was jarring.
Like, you think it's like the character can't come back from how they did it in this?
No, I think you will. You can always redeem a character in some way, right? Like, I mean, Nolan got redeemed in a little bit, right? In Invincible, and I'm rooting for him now to have this change. So I think you can. It's just like, what in this movie showed us that like Spider-Man would have gone to this length to save this character who had done these horrible things.
And, I think it was him learning her motivation, and that it was because she was someone who was an abandoned runaway who had her sister murdered by the government. Like, you're asking what's the connecting line.
And I think it wasn't enough.
Spider-Man's connecting line is that he has powers as an alone. She has powers as alone. She's done awful things, but he understands the context of it from what she's been through, and that is where he empathizes. Like, now whether you were sold on it is different, but like,
I just wasn't sold on it.
I thought it was fine, but
I think they tried. I think they needed to do a better job of setting that up in the first act of the film.
Mm-hmm.
And it would have made more sense. And I think especially I was sensitive to that because it seemed like it came at a cost of us being able to see MJ and Ned interact with Spider-Man or interact with Peter in that third act. They disappear. They're not there, right? Like that, all of that we've built up and that I wanted to see at least. And obviously they should make this movie just for me. I'm joking. We lose Ned and MJ in the last act, and I wish we would have continued to see somehow those stories interweave a lot more, because I was so invested in what happened to Ned and MJ and Peter as a trio. And so that's where I was like, my strength is that I love seeing them on screen, and I thought they did a great job when they did it. And the weakness is, I think, to me, I wish they would have done more, and we would have got to see that story play out more. It could have ended in the same place. I just wish we got to see it play out more.
No, I got you. That makes sense.
All right. Any other things you want to mention? I thought visuals were really great. I think people have commented online how like beautiful this movie is, especially compared to maybe the previous one, which had some logistical things. They made it during COVID and stuff, but I thought this was just gorgeous to look at.
No, but it was a good
Inventive.
movie.
Yeah. All right.
Anything else you want to say? Cash grab, but
cash grab. It was a cash grab, but I'm okay with a cash grab if like you're telling a good story or you're telling something that like
but then
something.
You got the BMW and phone ads, and half the movie is normalizing a surveillance state. Like we just gotta be cool with just face surveillance Spider-Man who simultaneously doesn't want to get his face scanned. Like there was a few moments of the movie of like, all right, this has to just be Disney corpo influence, just the product placement, facial scanning being okay, and hey, it's okay. The good guy can scan everyone in the city, but not him because he needs his privacy. And I was like, all right, these are pretty eye-rolly moments, especially in 2026. But
all right, I didn't have a problem. I didn't have a problem with the face scanning as like a tool that like they just introduced into the movie. I didn't think they glorified it. I think it was just like, hey, like this is something that like Peter has and he's figured out how to make happen. They didn't necessarily go into like the consequences of that in this movie or make it a cost.
I mean, didn't the cop say he's tapped into the New York cameras? So he said he literally has a facial recognition scan that he runs through all of New York's cameras.
Like, oh yeah, for sure. And the cop was like, that's all kinds of civil rights violations, but okay. Like she just said, I'm just gonna pretend right now.
They hand wave it away is the point.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't make a whole morality point, but I don't think I also don't think they glorified it at the same time. It was just something he did as a tool he used, and he used it for good. And like sometimes
is that not glorifying?
No, I mean sometimes you trust the hero to make the the call there. I guess.
Yeah, give the good guys the surveillance thing because they'll be safe and smart.
Yeah, and they weren't trying to tell a story around the fact that like Peter's having poor judgment around that. Right? So like I'm fine if they didn't spend any time exploring that because it's like that wasn't going to be relevant to like this particular story. It's not relevant to him like being connected to people. And and I think you could go back to it later and retcon it, right? Not retcon. You could address it later in that like he was surveilling Ned, he was surveilling MJ, like he was always viewing people through a screen, and that's how he felt most comfortable. And if somebody wanted to in the next movie, right, they could talk about that and how like he needs to get out from behind the screen and that being behind a screen is costing him and it costs the people around him and yada yada. I mean, you could do that, but that wasn't I don't think as pertinent to what I wanted to see in this movie and where they were going with it.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right. But yes, I do. I mean, yes, it's problematic in general that anybody is using things like this, and my social media is full of people abusing their flock camera access right now, which is really annoying. Or sad for our community. All right. Yeah. For me, I wanted more Peter Parker and more MJ and Ned and Spidey adventures, but we got a Jean Grey introduction instead. How would you rate this, Savon? We don't have Brian here anymore. He had to get going, so he won't give us a rating. A B?
It was a B. The more I think about the story, the worse it kind of gets. But it's a fun movie.
Yeah, I immediately walked away feeling like, dang.
I think this movie's being carried by being a Spider-Man movie. I think this is one of those people will show up for Spider-Man because it's Spider-Man, and that's good. But the movie, I think it's definitely one of the weaker ones amongst probably the Spider-Man movies.
Oh, interesting.
Fun, but like the story is not great.
Okay. I don't feel that strongly like in the negative way about it, even though I did have a pretty, I don't know, I did not really love that they used Jean Grey in this way in this movie, but I also had a really good time seeing it, and so like those are two hard things to square for me. I think part of it is like I love Tom Holland's version of Spider-Man. I love the action scenes. We talked really briefly about some of the fight scenes that they had, and I thought they were inventive, but they felt like kind of new in the way they used it. Obviously, they seemed to me to take a lot of inspiration from the fighting mechanics that were in the Spider-Man games on PS5, or PS4 and PS5, and all of that was fun and really cool. And I think watching it a second time would be interesting for a couple of reasons. One, to see like where were some of the breadcrumbs where the mystery was actually known to us and we just didn't realize it at the time. Like one instance I can think of is like right before MJ and Spider-Man kiss, they are swinging and MJ's not freaking out. And every time that we've seen MJ swing with Spider-Man, she's been pretty hysterical because she just hates the heights and the feeling of it. And she's very calm in their first swing. And it's like, oh, Jean Grey's already there. Right. And I think to me, I didn't pick that up until a little bit later when I was rethinking, like, oh, actually, she probably was like, I kind of clocked it, but I was like, well, maybe she's just more calm because she's like had her memory wiped. But I think she was more calm maybe because Jean Grey was already there, so things like that where it'd be fun to pick up the clues as you go, I think, to see it a second time. So I do think there's some rewatchability here, and I like it better than the second one. Far From Home to me was not it. So I'd say to me, this is, probably third best. I'd say I enjoyed Homecoming the best. I know a lot of people would put No Way Home as their top Spider-Man Tom Holland movie, but I think I'd go Homecoming, No Way Home, then this one, and then Far From Home would be the second movie. The Mysterio one would be my last choice.
That makes sense.
I think I'm putting this at a 75 out of 100, 80 out of 100. I did enjoy it. I love Spider-Man. So
like I said, it's a Spider-Man movie. Like it will make money.
Yeah,
story was straight.
Yeah, more MJ and Ned next time. I mean, I will see the next one. I'm
sick of. They need to stop. I'm sick of them. I'm sick of them resetting characters and then keeping them around. We reset Gamora and then brought her back. They killed Loki and then reset him and then brought him back. Like this is the third time where they blank slate a character but also don't kill him off. It's like, dude, I don't need to us have the character start as a blank slate and then the main character reminisces about what they used to have. This is like the third time they've done it. It's getting old.
Oh, I think that's fair. I just like this particular relationship, so I am interested in. I want them to be the trio again, in some ways. So that's
the trio's gone. Their memory's wiped. So like, I just don't need a movie trying to like retread on something that we know is gone.
All right, I think that's fair. Friends, we're out of here. What's on the next one? We should probably do House of Dragon next because that one's gonna wrap up. And then what else did we talk about? Oh, X-Men 97. So those will probably be the next two things that we really talk about. So go watch those shows. Make sure you catch up. Get all your takes out. You can come hear our incredibly correct takes. Confidently correct. That should be our new podcast name. Confidently correct. Also,
my branch off one.
Our 6-year anniversary is coming up, I believe, in September. So friends, we're out of here. It's been a pleasure being with you for 6 years. All right, friends, we're out of here. Bye. Go Lakers. Go Pistons. I'll throw that in for you.